Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be taking a look at something pretty amazing. We're going to be exploring the world of AI and 3D creation.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. And we're going to be looking at a paper that just came out last month by NVIDIA called Edify 3D, Scalable High-Quality 3D Asset Generation.
Wow, so this is really cutting edge stuff then.
Yeah, it is. So by the end of this deep dive, you'll understand how Edify 3D works, why it's got everyone buzzing, and what it could mean for the future of 3D content, like games, VR, movies, all that.
I mean, this is something that I think a lot of people are fascinated by right now. Like everyone's talking about AI and 3D. But what really strikes me about Edify 3D is that it's not just some experimental art project. It's actually trying to solve a very real and very challenging problem in 3D.
And what's that?
Well, it's the problem of creating professional grade 3D models that are ready to be used in all of these different applications.
Wait, so you're telling me that this AI can actually create 3D models that look like they were made by like a team of expert artists?
Yeah, that's the goal. And one of the biggest challenges in 3D asset creation has always been the time and specialized skills that it takes.
Right, because you need to know all this crazy software and like 3D modeling techniques, right?
Exactly. And on top of that, training AI to do this has been really tough because there just isn't as much high quality 3D data out there as there is for things like images and text.
So how does Edify 3D work then? I'm all ears.
Okay, so imagine this. You give Edify 3D a text prompt, something like a majestic lion wearing a chef's hat.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Now, instead of just generating a single image, Edify 3D creates multiple images of this lion, and it does it from different viewpoints. Like, imagine it's circling around the lion and taking pictures from all sides.
Interesting, but why so many images? Wouldn't one good image be enough?
Well, the thing is, to create a full 3D model, you need information about the object from all angles.
I see, I see. So it's like assembling a 3D puzzle, and each image is like a piece of that puzzle.
Exactly. And to make sure all those puzzle pieces fit together perfectly, Edify 3D uses something called ControlNet.
ControlNet. Sounds fancy.
It is pretty cool. Think of it like an AI art director that makes sure the final 3D model matches what you described in the text prompt, even down to the tiniest details.
Okay, so it's like having a really, really precise sculptor who's making sure every little curve and contour is just right. So we've got these multiple images now. What happens next?
Right, so once Edify 3D has generated those multi-view images, it needs to actually create the 3D model, and this is where the reconstruction model comes in. It uses a powerful transformer network to work its magic.
Okay, I'm ready for the grand finale. How does it go from a bunch of images to a solid 3D object?
Well, think of it like this. The AI doesn't just look at the shape in the images. It actually figures out the texture of the object, and even what material it's made of.
Wow. So going back to our lion chef, the AI could tell whether its mane is like smooth and silky or coarse and wild, and whether the chef's hat is made of, I don't know, like crisp white cotton or shiny metal.
Exactly, and get this. It does all this in under 2 minutes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
2 minutes. But how is this different from like all those AI art generators that people have been going crazy for? This feels like something else entirely.
You're right, there is a difference. Those AI art generators are great for making really cool 2D images. But Edify 3D is specifically designed for creating professional quality 3D models. It's about creating something you can actually use in, like video games or virtual reality.
Okay, so we're not just talking about making a pretty picture. We're talking about creating something that you could actually use in like a video game, in VR, even in a film.
Exactly. It's a whole new level of 3D creation. And that's why we need to take a closer look at what this could mean for all sorts of different industries. But first, let's dive a little deeper into how Edify 3D actually works.
Right, let's do it. Take it away.
So one of the things that really stood out to me in this paper was how much attention they paid to the data they used to train Edify 3D.
Oh, yeah. I noticed that too.
Yeah.
Like they weren't just messing around. They really took their time to make sure the AI had good stuff to learn from.
Right, like they used all kinds of sources. Huge image data sets, pre-rendered multi-view images, 3D shaped data sets, the whole works.
So it wasn't just about having a ton of data. It was about having the right kind of data.
Absolutely. They had to make sure it was all consistent, high quality, and formatted in a way that the AI could understand.
Like if you were teaching someone to cook, you wouldn't just give them a random pile of ingredients, right? You want to make sure they had everything measured out and prepped properly.
Exactly. And that's what they did with the data. They converted all those 3D shapes into a consistent format, triangulated the meshes, made sure the materials were all standardized. It's like prepping all the ingredients before you start cooking.
So no random lumps of data getting in the way, huh? Everything nice and smooth for the AI.
Exactly, but that was just the beginning. They also had to be really picky about which 3D shapes they used. They used these AI classifiers, trained through active learning, to weed out any data that wasn't like a complete object.
Oh, so they wanted to make sure the AI was learning from, like, a whole chair, not just a leg or a random piece of a table.
Right. They wanted complete, well-defined shapes, not just random bits and pieces. And get this, they actually had human experts double-checking the data to make sure it was top-notch quality.
Wow, talk about quality control. So even with the perfect ingredients, you still need to make sure they're arranged just right, right? How did they ensure the AI was learning to create 3D objects in a consistent way?
Well, that's where they used what's called canonical pose alignment.
Canonical pose alignment. Sounds complicated.
It's actually pretty simple. They basically had to define a front for every shape, even for objects that might not have an obvious front side.
Okay, I think I get it. Like a chair has a clear front, right? Okay. But what about something like, I don't know, a rock?
Yeah, exactly. So they had to figure out a consistent way to orient all the objects so the AI would learn to understand their intended direction.
Otherwise, you might end up with a chair that's floating upside down.
Exactly. Okay, so now we have all these perfectly prepped 3D shapes, right? But how did they actually show these shapes to the AI? Did they just present them as 3D models?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too.
Not quite. They had to turn those 3D shapes into images that the AI could learn from. And this is where rendering comes in.
Rendering, like making it look realistic.
Yeah. They used this fancy path tracer to render the shapes from different angles, kind of like simulating how light would interact with the objects in real life.
Ah, so they were giving the AI a visual tour of each object, showing it from all sides and under different lighting conditions.
Exactly. It's like taking a sculpture and shining spotlights on it from all directions to reveal every detail.
That's pretty clever. But they didn't stop there, did they? They also wanted the AI to understand the link between words and 3D forms, right?
You got it. To make things even more sophisticated, they used what's called a vision language model to generate captions for each shape.
So it's like giving the AI a dictionary that connects words to their 3D counterparts.
Exactly. They were really going all out to give the AI a rich and immersive learning experience. And judging by the results, it seems like all that effort paid off.
Yeah, those 3D models they showed in the paper were seriously impressive. Not just visually stunning, but also super detailed and well-structured.
And the best part is, they're not just static images. They're fully fledged 3D models that you can actually use in any 3D software.
It's like going from sketching an idea on a napkin to having a finished sculpture ready for an art gallery.
Exactly. And they're generated as quad meshes, which means they have a clean and organized structure that's super easy to work with.
So even if you're not a 3D modeling expert, you can still take these AI-generated assets and customize them to fit your needs.
Absolutely, and that's huge for all sorts of industries. Think about it. A small indie game studio could suddenly create these amazing, realistic environments without needing to hire a whole team of 3D artists.
Talk about a game changer. But wait, didn't the researchers also hint at something even bigger, something beyond just individual objects?
Oh yeah, they definitely did. They started talking about using Edify 3D to create entire 3D scenes.
Oh, now we're talking. Imagine being able to describe a scene like a bustling cyberpunk city with flying cars and neon signs and having Edify 3D just create it in full 3D.
I know, right? And they're actually working on that by combining Edify 3D with these large language models, or LLMs, which are crazy good at understanding and generating text.
So it's like the LLM is the architect, designing the overall layout and what goes where, and then Edify 3D is the construction crew, building the scene with all those amazing 3D assets.
That's a great analogy. It's like this awesome collaboration between AI creativity and human design.
This is seriously pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible with AI. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to take a step back and think about the bigger picture. How does Edify 3D fit into the whole landscape of 3D content creation? And what does it tell us about the future of AI and creativity? Okay, so we've seen what Edify 3D can do, but how does it compare to all the other AI attempts at 3D creation? Is this a big leap forward or just another cool demo?
Oh, no, this is definitely a big leap. I mean, the paper does a really good job of putting Edify 3D in context with all the previous work that's been done.
Right, because they're not claiming they, like, invented the wheel here. Yeah.
Exactly. They're building on a lot of research that came before. And like one of the biggest challenges has always been, like you said, the data problem. There just hasn't been enough good 3D data to train AI models with.
So it sounds like there was, like, a real breakthrough when people figured out how to use all that 2D data that's already out there to teach AI about 3D.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Things like score distillation sampling, or SDS, have been super important. It's like, imagine teaching someone about the shape of a building by showing them pictures from all sides.
I get it. But then, like, how do you go from a bunch of separate images to a real 3D model?
Right, so that's where multi-view image generative models came in. These models are specifically designed to create like sets of images that are consistent with each other. So, the lighting and the perspective all match up, which makes it way easier to reconstruct the 3D shape from those images.
Okay, so now we have these, like, consistent multi-view images. But the actual reconstruction part, like turning those images into a 3D model, that can't be easy, right?
It's definitely not easy. And early on, researchers looked to like traditional photogrammetry techniques for inspiration, stuff like structure from motion, which has been used to create 3D models from photos for a long time.
So they were, like, taking inspiration from the old school and giving it an AI twist.
Yeah, pretty much. And they combine that with all these cool neural rendering techniques, especially those based on neural radiance fields or NERFs.
Oh yeah, NerFs. Those are amazing for creating these, like, super realistic 3D scenes. But I remember hearing that NerFs aren't very editable.
You're exactly right. NERFs are great at recreating like exact copies of real world scenes, but turning those into like editable 3D models is still tricky. And that's where those transformer-based models, like the one in Edify 3D, really shine.
So Edify 3D kind of brings together the best of both worlds, right? The old school photogrammetry and the new hot AI stuff.
Exactly. It's like a perfect blend of the two. And let's not forget about like texture and material generation, which is a whole other challenge.
Right, because you can't just, like, slap a flat texture on a 3D model and
Yeah.
expect it to look real. You need to, like, account for how light interacts with the surface and all that.
Exactly. And earlier methods, they weren't great at that. But newer techniques, like the one used in Edify 3D, they've gotten much better. They use things like, depth conditioned diffusion and multi-view PBR modeling. It's all very technical. But the bottom line is they can create textures that look way more realistic.
So, like, is it safe to say that AI-generated 3D models are finally ready for, like, prime time?
Oh, absolutely. And as the demand for 3D content just keeps growing and growing, Edify 3D has the potential to be like a total game changer.
Mhm.
Imagine a world where creating these amazing immersive 3D experiences is as easy as typing a few words.
My mind is blown, honestly. But beyond the, like, wow factor, what does this mean for the future of AI and creativity in general?
That's the big question, isn't it? Like, we're witnessing a fundamental shift in how we create and interact with 3D. AI isn't just a tool anymore, it's becoming like a partner in the creative process.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it. Edify 3D isn't just a cool piece of tech. It's a sign of what's to come. It's a glimpse into a future where, like, the line between human and machine creativity is getting blurrier and blurrier. And that's both exciting and, well, kind of scary at the same time. But hey, that's the future for you. So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of AI and 3D. Until next time.